Hello, welcome back to the Ineffableelse. Welcome to another video in our series all about Jupiter. This week we're going to be looking at Jupiter in Scorpio, Jupiter in the 8th house, and Jupiter conjunct Pluto. Before I jump into this video, I'd like you to feel into the archetype of Scorpio and of Pluto, of the underworld, of the snake, the scorpion, the eagle, the phoenix. Where do you fall on that hierarchy of senses? That base snake level, that willful fighting scorpion energy, controlled by heat, that bird's eye view eagle, soaring high, seeing everything, and that phoenix, rising from the ashes, born again with the wisdom of the world within, unafraid of fire. I wanted to start with that basis because this is not like any other Jupiter placement. This isn't just benefic and wonderful. This is your area for good fortune and affluence and abundance showering down in your life. Well, firstly, what is your definition of abundance? What is your definition of good luck? Because it's bound to be different than the widely held belief of what good fortune may come to represent. Because for you, there's always a yearning to go deeper, for a deeper meaning, at whatever cost. There's no desire for superficiality. There's no desire for receiving a one-size-fits-all sort of prize. This is something about the uniqueness of you and your desire for the deepest part of your own soul and the connection to soul in general, human soul. It is going to emphasize scorpionic principles and the principles within that hierarchy of Scorpio forms from shadow to siddhi, from the lowest to the highest, from the most base and animalistic to the highest, most subtle and spiritual aspects of the sign. So as this energy will travel up through you, does it sometimes get trapped in the sexual area? This is pure creative life force that then gets magnified with the power of Jupiter, and often this can mean extreme amounts of sexual power, sexual energy to create, energy to dance, to play, to just a churning in the loins, and that yearning in the loins. So if you were to engage with this and wish to engage with this on a higher, more spiritual plane, you may then say, fantastic, I will channel that spiritual, Jupiterian, fortunate, beautiful, divine energy up through my sexual energy, and I will do this with a partner, and we will decide on an intention and we'll bring it into manifestation. This is what the tantric world will tell you. The lesson that needs to be learned is how to purify your intentions. Because if you're two people, you and a significant other, they should be significant, not just anyone. Because if they are just anyone, they would shortly become significant the moment that you engage with them on a sexual level. The scorpionic urge is so strong that sometimes we forego other more subtle urges involved in connection in favor of just that sexual hit. If you're going to do what I'm mentioning about going down a spiritual path with this, with your spiritual partner, your soulmate, hopefully, or at least someone who is on the same page as you, it's important knowing how the human mind works and how involved the human mind is in sexual activity, that it's not a case of sitting down, saying a prayer. Let's make this sexual act and yeah, let's do it in favor of world peace. You know, let's do it in favor of, cleaning up the oceans. You know, a nice message like this, or something blanket, healing trauma. It's all very well and good to say these things, to think these things, to kind of have a bit of a ooh feeling towards that. But at the moment of orgasm, the moment when you're in the depths of the throes of love making, both you and your partner need to be on the same page and need to be putting all your energy in towards this one thing. And that is very rare. That is extremely rare, because there is a huge amount of power play within the snake archetype as it is used in the manipulative, more fox cunning sense of the archetype, the kind of distorted version of the snake. The lizard brain, this attitude of eat or be eaten. And this comes through in our sexual experiences often. So it's very difficult for say, a man who has spent most of his sexual life ejaculating as a means to get rid of pent-up frustration, as a means to get rid of some inner rage, some inner tumultuousness. Likewise, the man who is having sex just to please the woman for the sake of getting some validation and kind of doing anything just to please her, and putting himself in the back seat completely and hiding in his mind and not really allowing himself to be fully embodied. Or the man who holds back his true self because he has sexual fear of ejaculating too soon, or not at all, or not getting it up, and all of these kind of very base feelings in the sexual realm, which will be feeding into this, what seems like, oh yes, we did a tantra course, and I'm not trying to be dismissive, but it's, with this placement, you need to go deeper with the meaning of the sacral chakra and how you engage with that when it is so exaggerated and so overwhelmingly so within your chart. It's a huge feature of your life. If you're then a woman who is doing anything to please a man, and she's there thinking of the oceans, thinking of saving the planet, but when the going gets tough, will fall back into her old patterns of people pleasing and of insecurity about her body and leaving the body and dissociating, and in both cases maybe the partners close their eyes and think of someone else or somewhere else, or doing the shopping, and all these kind of strange habits that people develop. And these sort of very pure intentions that are there at the start kind of go out the window. And it's finding that place where you can give in to absolute sexual abandon, where you abandon the ego and the ideas about yourself and just let go in freedom in this very natural sense, whilst also staying extremely present, extremely close to your own heart and your own values, and whilst not judging what is happening and just letting things go. This is the true nature of sexual freedom, is anything goes. It's not the point of making love is you're using the parts of the body which are considered so taboo and so shameful and so hidden, and then you're sticking each other's faces right in those very intimate parts of the body, and it's extremely revealing and extremely intimate. And as this whole sexual revolution has unfolded over the last 50, 60 odd years, we've tried to dampen that down. We've tried to make it into something which is commodifiable, and it really isn't. It's extremely intimate. Scorpio will show you that. Pluto is always showing us that, and Pluto is always giving us back giving us our just desserts for when we play with this energy and don't respect it. I'd like you to ask yourself, what was the time you had the most luck and good fortune in your life? When did you feel the luckiest? When did you feel the most blessed? Because as a Scorpio plutonic soul, it's going to be the time when you really got through to someone. You were really seen and you really saw, and there was a deep, deep penetrative connection that maybe even hurt. It was so close to home, so raw, and it's that rawness that you're really chasing. And sometimes it can get, because the snake can't fully express itself up through your body, it often gets stuck in the lower chakras and just goes around in circles and doesn't fully present as it would with its full potential, largely because it's shamed and it's almost been given an out by sexual liberation, in a sense of just let it all hang out. And there's a certain tendency for that with Jupiter, with the unashamedly forthcoming nature of Jupiter and Sagittarius, and that kind of free-flowingness. And absolutely we need to rid the shame surrounded by sex, because as the sexual opening has happened, and much more commonly now people have multiple partners and are freely talking about it, that was always happening, but sex has also been taken away from financial security in many ways, especially for women. And it's become more about pleasure being front and center. But as financial security is a distraction, so is pleasure as the be-all and end-all. There's another layer to sexual connection which is deeper and much more about the transformational quality that is laden within the Scorpio archetype. But in order to transform, you need to be allowed to burn. This is the boiling water. It's a water sign. Water spills out, and this is boiling water, so it burns, and others feel uncomfortable facing this. This is something you're very comfortable with facing, or at least you could be. What is your relationship with your body, with your sensuality, and with your creative potential, your artistic potential? How much have you engaged with that, and how much is it whoa, too hot to handle? Whenever we have something in Jupiter, that area of life is expanded. Mine being in Libra, my relationship has been the thing that's just opened me out and been the magnifying glass for all areas of me. It's not just abundance, it's brought tremendous abundance along with it, but it's required me to give a lot too. And you can't do half measures with Jupiter. This is Bacchus. This is Bacchus's delight. So be very honest with yourself. Where have you benefited from your sexual energy? Where have you used sexual energy to get things in your life? And this isn't about becoming ashamed of that. It's about recognizing it. And it's about recognizing how that is somewhat dirty. It's somewhat not as pure as it could be, because it's energy that is pure. It's pure creative energy that creates a child, which is the main motivation for sex, is to bring forth life. And if you can really be on the same page with someone where you do make love and it's in aid of something like a really great intention like world peace, just make sure the communication is flowing between you the whole time. Like, I'm off center, I want to bring this back, or oh wow, make room for, look, we want to heal the world, but honestly, this is the trauma that's coming up, and I just need to cry with you inside of me just for the next little while. Or I need to let out this noise over here, and I don't know why it's bringing this thing up, or we need to stop. And it's not just about the mental cycles, it's about, whoa, what's happening in the body? Where is this going? So it's having both the ability to really, really, really go with the flow and let it take you, but also be able to utilize that energy in a constructive way, so you're not just repeating patterns, which is often why sex can get really boring for people and they start looking elsewhere, because it's just a superficial hit. It's, this person's really attractive and that means I'm attractive, and but that's been going on a while now, so I'm not sure if I'm I'm getting that buzz, that validation, so I need to look for another and look for another, and it's that eventually very exhausting cycle. There's just many more graduation steps within your sexual spiritual journey as they marry up, and the tantric world is fraught with issues in this way, because it will attract people who are very in that sexually liberated place, but it's not taking into consideration the intimacy. And I've known people that have experienced quite a lot of trauma by going to, for example, a yoni massage course, in which they're expected to open up their legs and have themselves on display for a group of people and receive a massage, and it's just breaking through. Let's break through, penetrate through these painful blocks that we have around sexuality. And even if it's a room of women and they're holding space and there's this wonderful intention, it's very, very hard unless we're truly, truly, truly connected to ourselves the entire time and not dissociating, which is so easy for women to do. We end up re-traumatizing ourselves, and it's much smaller than that. It's much more intimate, and the Jupiter quality that wants us to bring it all out and have it all kind of out for everyone to see, it can be channeled in a way which is healthier and which is more consistent. It's a bit like having atomic energy, you know, it's absolutely potent and explosive, but if it's used in the right way, it can keep you going for a lot longer. Sometimes I had those experiences where I would have a huge burst of this kind of kundalini energy that would be me dancing in the center of a fire circle, and I would give it my all, and then I would just feel the depletion would just kind of dry me up like a prune, and I'd be like, wow, I gave so much there, and that's all gone. It's all gone. Instead of keeping that steady, you think of it like a hearth inside your inner fire, and how you need to keep feeding that with logs, little by little by little. It's not creating an enormous bonfire and then you've used up all your resources. It's having that consistency and that ebb and that flow. And this is water, remember. This is the transmuting fire that Scorpio has to offer. But it's also finding that balance where you can be playful with the element of sexuality, which is really related to death. Scorpio is about death, because it's as much to do with creation as it's to do with destruction. And finding that cosmic giggle, that ability to laugh in the middle of even in the middle of feeling into trauma, and even in the middle of contemplating death. Your luckiness and your giftedness is your absolute ability to feel and experience and go through deep pain, deep trauma, deep things that other people they wouldn't touch with a barge pole, and yet you're really able to go there and sit there and just sit in that, like, what am I learning? And to kind of contextualize things through a very, very physical inner journey. And it's so personal to you. And even if you're in a deep relationship, deep partnership, and you want to scream in their face, I want to connect, I want to get through, I want to penetrate you, and for you to penetrate me, and for us to just unify, there's always going to be this lonely little 0 point in the center, which is untouchable and unknowable, and is at once completely enveloping and including the whole universe, and also with an extreme feeling of isolation and aloneness. And how is your relation, how is your maturity in relation to being alone? Is it a loneliness, or is it alone? Is it all one? Is it a loner? Is it going your own way? And how does this relate to other aspects of your chart, including your sun? I really like it when I see like the Scorpio quality that is so deep and so knowing and so scary and someone just comes along and uses all that energy in a really, if they find the channel for it that is so healthy and isn't destructive to their life and is so truly passionate and creative, and there's a passion in here as well. And you've been gifted with the eyesight of Jupiter, with absolute incredible eyesight to see the bigger picture and to come and sit down and see leaves and decaying matter and just see how this is behind me at once alive on the tree, drying, going through processes to then take it back to the earth, with everything being fed by the mycelium and the inner workings of things breaking down, the ants breaking things up and carrying them off, and all of this huge ecosystem in which we're not just looking at the flowers, we're looking and we are equally as interested in what's going on beneath the surface as we are in the fruiting body, as we are in the shiny daylight superficial side of things, which is still important. It's not that it's just because it's, I mean, in Spanish, superficial is the surface, it just means surface, whereas the things beneath that are unseen, the nighttime, is your chart a nighttime or a daytime chart? Where does your sun fall in relation to your ascendant? Is it below the horizon? Is it above the horizon? Are you a nocturnal or a diurnal person? Which sect do you belong to? And then this will really help you understand how you relate to your Jupiter and how you relate to this intimacy, this into me, see, this internal world. Because Jupiter is fire and Scorpio is burning fire. So that huge bubbling cauldron of alchemy that is going on within you is not to be taken lightly. It's also, you also cannot expect anyone to not only not understand what it is you're going through or experiencing, because it is utterly unique, but for them to give two shits about anything you're going through either, because it's absolutely terrifying for a vast majority of the population. So there's an element of forgiveness here for people just not understanding what on earth, and not wanting to understand what on earth your day-to-day experience of life is. If you have someone in your life who is, as you perceive, to be quite dark and scorpionic and in touch with the other side, in touch with a side of life that is somewhat esoteric and somewhat behind the veil, and maybe they have a Scorpio sun, this is your gateway to understand them. This is very bigger picture. It's not so wrapped up in ego and fearfulness. So if this is a part of your chart where you feel scared of, it's something to step into. The shoes of Jupiter are very big, and you can step into these giant shoes and kind of try them on for size and see how you relate to that feeling of being up there, being the largest body in space, related to the deepest, darkest part of our solar system, which involves the planet that has been renegated from planet status, is rejected. It's the rejected part of human consciousness that people don't want to see, and you have it front and center and consistently magnified. And we've all been through it. In 2018, which was the last year it was in the sign of Scorpio, so it's something we've been through. What were you doing at that time, and how did it affect your life? And anytime anything is passing through the sign of Scorpio, so including the sun, around November time, this is something that's going to be highlighted for you. It just means that season, that particular quadrant of the year is going to be palpable for you and containing a lot of gifts for change and opportunities for change. And you absolutely have to be okay with change with Scorpio, because it's all about the cycles of birth and death, and coming into contact with death, and coming into contact with love making. It's very interesting when I meet people with this sign who absolutely shy away from intimate relationship, and I don't blame them, because it's not possible for you to have a superficial functioning of this. It's always going to be powerful, and when you do make love, it's going to be very, very evident what you then create with it. It is about making babies, but just as much it's about the creation impulse. So this is anything that's within your mind and within your heart especially is the thing that's going to come into manifestation. So if you're in a place where it is all fine and dandy and you're really in touch with your heart and everything's aligned and the things you think really resonate down through your centers, get into a feeling state. So we were doing this in the moments with making love. Picture something physical that you're trying to manifest into the future and just be with that feeling. And I was getting the sound of crickets and the feeling of some keys in my hand, and just these very sensual qualities of life were then brought into a picture of the future, not just there wasn't even too much of a mental image of a perfect location, perfect home, but certainly now we live in a place where there are crickets and I feel the same keys in my hand, and it's almost projecting yourself into the future that you'd like to have to do whatever it is you wanted. And at that time we needed to ground just before the pandemic hit. Thankfully we grounded just in time for that. And in these senses you can really utilize this energy in a really beneficial way. I just wanted to add about the lack of fear that is potential here, really, just to emphasize that element that takes leaps into the absolute unknown, because it's far more painful, far more dangerous to stay in the comfort zone. And just to say that the things that you find to be your abundance may be really quite different from the average Joe, and what you then do with the abundance that you're gifted. And whilst we often think of Scorpio as being all-knowing and slightly manipulative and kind of very aware, you have to look back at the archaic ruler before Pluto. The ruler of Scorpio was Mars. So there's a Martian quality and a Martian energy which is related to Aries and definitely related to the card of the Fool and the Fool's journey. And sometimes it's very foolish to go on a spiritual journey in which you have to kind of confront a lot of patterns and a lot of darkness, and ultimately Scorpio is about seeing patterns in things and kind of seeing the higher need to dissect and to let parts of the psyche and the past die. And it can seem foolish because you are inevitably going to step out of your own comfort zone and to make other people feel uncomfortable. So I just wanted to throw that in there. So there's so many roads to go down with this. It can go a lot deeper, but I think I'm going to wrap it up there and just say thank you so much for being here. Thank you for engaging with this energy and for not taking it lightly and not thinking, oh, Jupiter, what's that? No, it's really big in your chart. This is really important. And if you would like to go deeper into your whole birth chart, because you are all 360 degrees, don't be fooled thinking that you are your sun, moon and ascendant. You are specific degrees of this entire circle. We all are being expressed in different moments, in different quantities and different times, and it's absolutely fascinating. So please go to the website and book a reading and subscribe to this channel. The website is ineffableelse.com. Thank you so much for being here. Bye bye.